I am the last survivor of the worst ship disaster in history. My name is Wilhelm, and this is my dramatic story. I was born on July 7, 1923, at 7 o'clock in Stralen near Silesia and joined the Navy in 1941. At the end of World War II, I initially belonged to the crew of the U-boat U-80 and was later supposed to be transferred to Kiel on the Wilhelm Gustloff. The German cruise ship of the organization Kraft der Freude had been converted into a troop transport and the last hope for thousands of women and children fleeing from East Prussia from Russian troops. In the harbor, countless people crowded onto the ship, so many that not everyone could be registered. The ship had room for almost 1,500 passengers and around 420 crew members. However, in the end, there were about 10,300 desperate people on board the hopelessly overcrowded cruise ship. It was January 30th, 1945, when around 1700 hours, the ship finally left Godenhafen, now Gdynia in Poland. The Gustloff was at that time about 23 nautical miles off the coast of East Pomerania. I had just finished my watch duty until 2100 hours in the front dining room before the tragedy unfolded. At 21:30, Captain Alexander Marinesco aboard the Russian submarine S-13 targeted our ship through his periscope. He assumed it was a warship. Marinesco fired 4 torpedoes, with 3 of them hitting the Wilhelm Gustloff with full force. I had just grabbed the door handle when there was a loud bang, followed by another one, and then another one. The first torpedo hit the bow where the naval helpers were housed in the swimming pool. Panic broke out on board, and people ran for their lives. Many were trampled to death in the corridors. A battle for the lifeboats ensued, but there were too few of them. They were frozen and could not be launched into the water. At that time, the air temperature was minus 18 degrees Celsius, and the water was only 2 degrees Celsius. People trapped behind armored glass in the lower deck screamed for their lives. When I finally reached the deck, the ship was listing heavily, and I slid into the icy water. In complete darkness, fully soaked and freezing, I managed to climb onto a life raft. Suddenly, the ship was brightly illuminated, and music played through the speakers as if we were entering a harbor. The emergency power supply had kicked in due to the seawater, causing short circuits. While the Gustloff was sinking, the crew managed to send a distress signal. Eventually, the German torpedo boat T-36 arrived at the scene of the disaster and tried to rescue as many people as possible from the water. For most, it was too late, and they drowned or froze in the 2-degree cold waters of the Baltic Sea. The danger was not over yet. T-36 was also targeted by the Russian submarine, with torpedoes and depth charges being fired. But the German captain managed to evade them. Eventually, I, along with over 500 other survivors, arrived at the port of Sassnitz on board. Over 9,000 people died that night, and only 1,200 passengers were saved. The Lord has been kind to me. Soon, I will celebrate my 100th birthday in good health, apart from an eye condition. I cannot forget the screams of the people that could be heard for miles as the ship sank.